You'll remember me when the west wind moves on the fields of barley. You'll forget the sun in his jealous sky as we walk in fields of gold. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jazz for Peace podcast, where the final solution is love. Speaking of love, by the way, we are here with an outstanding communicator. And, we're in a time right now where we're communicating online, we're communicating in person in every which way. And communication has always been important, and it's never been more important than now. And we have Michael Forman, who's going to help us with that. And just to give you a little bit of background, Michael Forman is an engaging communicator and leading expert at making networking fun and have it profitable in the end. And I can't wait to ask him about how does it actually become profitable, the communication and all that. So the author of the book, it's called Networking Unleashed. He's a popular networking speaker, and he's given many presentations, has increased the profitability in many corporations, being a veteran of Desert Storm, which is quite interesting as well. And he does love speaking, but he's also a family man from Cummings, Georgia, a good old Southern boy. So we're going to bring him onto the show now, and I'm really excited to introduce to you Michael Forman. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rick. It's great to be here.
Now, getting right to the beginning, networking, no one's really studied it that I know. I mean, we all just bumble around and just hope for the best. And it's so rare that we're going to come across somebody that's actually made a science of it and, presents it as a skill set. Starting right at the beginning, what do you do when you approach someone, let's say at a networking event?
Okay. Well, first, let me just back you up just a little bit. With the pandemic, everybody went inside. They forgot how to network. They forgot how to communicate. They think everything is over the phone. It's horrible to see two people talking that are standing next to one another and talking through their phones. It's just the communication, the networking, all went by went behind. Um, when you first approach a networking event, okay, so imagine, if you will, a big room with a lot of tables, and there's 4 or 5 people at each table talking and everything else. What do you do when you first walk in? Well, when you first walk in, you find the table you're going to go to, and then when you talk to somebody, you look them in the eye. You look them in the eye and you give them a firm handshake, not like the dead fish that people are accustomed to. You give them a firm handshake, and you sit there after the introductions. Here's the number one thing you have to do: shut up. You don't talk. You let them talk. People love to talk about themselves. Okay. So if you can get that person engaged in something that you are interested or can level up with, then let them talk. You are not bringing up business for any reason. Okay. You let them talk. Okay. When you first walk to the table, there may be a conversation going. Listen for that conversation. Is it a conversation you can be a part of? If you give something to that conversation that actually means something. If not, you haven't said anything yet, you can very politely bow out and go to the next table. Okay, but if there is, then you give your 2 cents and you start to make that contact with the people at the table. Now, I will also say, do not, and underline this, do not hand out your business cards. People think that's the number one thing. Here, take my card. Here. Okay. And people, listen, I've been at a table, I think with 4 or 5 people, and a guy came up and handed all of us his business cards. Here, take this, take this, take this, take this. Oh, let me have all your business cards. Okay, good, good, good. Listen, I'm going to hook up with each and every one of you. Afterwards, I'm just going to move on. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye. And we're all sitting there looking at the card, like, what's this? I took it and I threw it out. Okay, you need to treat your business cards like they are money, and you only give them out to specific people.
You know what you said, I every single one of those banana peels I have witnessed people slip on, and to this day. And the other thing is I see people going all the way through life with that dead fish handshake, and I'm like, this guy, the first time, as soon as somebody does that, I'm like, man, this poor guy, I feel sorry for him when he does it, because I'm like, this guy's 62 years old and he still doesn't know that that's not an advancement. You know what I mean? Giving someone
It,
something that's lifeless.
it's a life lesson. Okay, when I brought my boys up, I have two boys. Now they're 28 and 32, but when they're growing up, I taught them right from an early age to look the person in the eye and to shake the hand firmly. I would have phone calls. Hey, Mike, I just met up with your son, and he he's a good man. He shook my hand, looked me in the eye, called me Mr. So and so. I can't believe it. I wish more kids would do that. I'm like, well, thank you, you know. But that's so you start from an early age.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, listen is one of the most important words on planet Earth. I don't care what language it is. When I first went to Africa with Jazz for Peace, and we went to Rwanda, the very first word that I asked somebody, what is that word that person's saying? And it was umfa, umfa. And they said, what does that word mean? And the person said, listen. The person was saying, listen, blah, 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 listen, blah, 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 and they wanted you to listen. And as a musician, first of all, you can't even, we're communicating a universal language, and we're talking to somebody, and we're communicating, a lot of times people don't realize it, but we might be communicating for the very first time on the stage at, performing. But it's our ability to listen that's first and foremost, is our ability to listen. And then comes our ability to mesh our
Precisely.
our version of the language of jazz, our dialects of the language of jazz, and find the similarities and find the common ground, and merge with the other musicians. And that's called interplay. And that's what makes interplay, is listening. So, when you said the importance of listening, I mean, I couldn't possibly agree with you more. And the other thing is, when you have the qualities that you just mentioned, people pick up on them. And so at an event, they pick up on those, and that creates interest, because knowing that you have those qualities, they need to know you have those qualities. The sooner they know, the better, because then that makes them curious. It creates curiosity. Oh, he knows how to greet somebody. He knows how to shake their hand. He knows how to look at me. He knows how to listen. And not only that, he's not revealing everything. Like you said, he's not flinging a card around like a Frisbee. And he's not even, I find myself, because I'm a student of what you're talking about. I try to be a student myself, where I can say something, but you know what? I'm not, because I can tell they don't want that. So I have to create that curiosity. I wait until I've created enough curiosity to speak in the first place. That's when I'll offer something. And then I try to nail them with something that's as pertinent as possible, as helpful as possible, all those kinds of things. So, because now you have a chance to swing the bat. You're not up to the plate when they don't have any curiosity. So now you're barging your way in. Am I making
Precisely.
sense? Yep.
Absolutely. You're approaching that table as if you are the expert in whatever field that you're in. Okay,
Mhm.
to give you an idea, I'm doing a workshop for a metal roofing company, and you're thinking like metal roofing company, how can this help them? Very simple. You have sales calls, you have networking events, and if you come across and if you follow everything that I have written in my book, if you follow it verbatim, that's where I almost guarantee you that you'll increase your profit margin by the next month. And that is because you come across as the expert. You know that if they ask you a question about something in your field, you've got an answer. Okay. And you're not going to run on about the answer. You're not going to give 18 stories where 2 sentences will do. Okay.
Right.
If you do your job correctly, it will ask you for your business card. Okay. That's
Right.
where it is. That's what you do. But then you get into, okay, so now you've just began, you have their attention. All right. You have to then build the rapport. Okay. Now, a simple little word, form, FORM,
Mhm.
family, occupation, recreation, and a message which really encumbers everything else. So when you're meeting either one on one or in a networking event, you can always touch upon something. Family, if it's in an office, look for a picture of a child. Look
Right.
for a wife, a husband, something. Is it youth sports? Is it a plaque of sports? Is it music? Is it art? You can always find that common ground. And if it's music, well, everybody's got a favorite band. Okay. And hopefully you heard of that band, depending on your age gap, and you can talk about it. And then once you get them to talk about their band and what they are listening, all of a sudden now those barriers are coming down and the rapport that you've built is building up. So pretty soon there's no more wall and you can talk freely. Now, if you've gone into that office, I haven't said talk business yet. Okay. You went in, you listened, you searched the room real quickly for any type of anything, and you build that rapport. You're talking, you're listening. He's talking or she's talking about everything. I have not said one word about business. Let
Right.
that rapport come down and or go up, and then he'll probably say or she'll probably say, what is this about? After about 10, 15 minutes into the meeting, then you just go into your thing. But that rapport building is so important. Sometimes you have 10 seconds, sometimes 30 seconds, sometimes a minute, sometimes 10 minutes. So you don't know, but you have about 10 seconds to scope around and to see exactly what it is you have in common.
What's interesting is some people who have less to offer get further with your skills because they hang out all the time and they're always networking, whereas the other people are busy honing their skills and doing their job really well. So sometimes the guy with your skills gets the gig and then screws it up because he spends all his time hanging out with people in bars or
Because
whatever.
he's not
Then
the
they're afraid,
he's not the expert in the room. He can be a
and then
master
they're
networker.
That's it. And then they're afraid to fire him because he's a buddy, he's a pal, he's been fishing with them and all that stuff. It's kind of
Right.
funny the way that works. But if you are an expert, you really need to have the skills you're talking about because you're not going to be in front of these people all the time because you got other things to do. So you've got to
Absolutely.
really make the most of each situation. Now, according to your book, my understanding is there's a difference between if you're meeting someone at a networking event or if you're meeting them, let's say, one on one. Is that true?
Very true. Because when you
Okay.
walk into a networking event, you have 300 people and you have a
Right.
table of 5 people, and you have
Mhm.
to see what you can get out of the conversation from each individual and really figure out who it is that you're going to connect with and what to talk about. But when you're on a one-to-one meeting, there is nobody else. It's just you and them. And that's where you look around for their pictures, for the sculptures, anything that has to do with art, music, sports, and I can talk at just about anything and go on their level. And some like I wouldn't dare to try to go on the same level as you and talk music, okay? Because I just wouldn't win. So I have to find something that we more or less on the same level, and then we talk about that.
Well, and conversely, what I often do with people is I will defer down to wherever they are and you know what I mean? Could be their favorite band, could be a country band. And I'll try to genuinely inflect, yeah, I've heard a couple of his songs and they're really blah, blah, blah. And and sometimes able to tell him something that he doesn't know about his favorite country or I'll tell, you know what I mean? I'll be able to tell him something. And now we're able to communicate that way because I'm giving him some juicy information from the industry or something, you know what I mean? But
Right.
anyway, those are important points. But I think what you're saying is at the networking event, when there's a lot of people, you don't have the same opportunity for personal that you do in person. In person, all you got to do is scope the place out and find something that you can, a picture or anything, a subject matter, a football team, could be anything. But on the networking thing, you have to, your handshake is, even more important, these initial greetings. Is that correct?
That's correct. And your eye contact is just as important. So if I
Right.
walk up to you and I shake your hand firmly, I'm looking at you in the eye and I'm speaking to you directly, you have to be present. Be present when you're at that networking meeting. Like, take that phone and throw it away. Put it in your back pocket, put it in your purse, do what you have to do. Get the phone away from you. Be present. Listen to the other person or people at the table and try to
Right.
inject your conversation.
Okay, now we're at the point where someone has made an initial positive introduction, right? Two people, either they're alone and he's been able to, figure out the guy's favorite football team and put on, if he's a fan or whatever it is, find this common ground that you're talking about, family, whatever. Or they're in a networking situation where he's also been able to just show some basic professionalism, some spot on skills that you're talking about. Now what, actually? I'm guessing it's going to be time to find out about what it is you do at this point, right?
Yeah, well, this is where it all comes together. Let's say you made that connection and you
Mhm.
said, okay, you know what? We should really meet at another time, another place, or something. I have to follow up with you. But first, you take his business card or her business card and you write down the date. You write down the name of the function and you write down a little something that you spoke about so that when you go back to your house, your office, or anything else, it jogs your memory. And you put an email out and you thank them to meet them and you'd love to have a cup of coffee with them, yada, yada, yada. And you
Mhm.
send it. That's not the kicker. At the very at that evening, you go to your briefcase, you pick out a thank you card and give them a handwritten thank you card.
Wow.
Dear Rick,
Never thought
I want to thank you for having time with me. I'm sorry to hear about your son playing soccer. He hurt his leg, but I hope to converse with you later on. How about some coffee, Mike? I put
So
into an envelope.
after the one-on-one meeting, you'll send them a thank you card. Is that correct?
That night,
Whoa.
and I've
Okay.
done this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and all of it is it, when I was in the mortgage industry. My main focus was realtors, and
Right.
I sent a realtor this thank you note. Well, she was so impressed with the thank you note, she sent me a thank you for my thank you note.
Right.
Okay. She said, nobody does this. I said, you're
Mhm.
right. Nobody does this. So if you don't get it goes on and on and on. But now we're at the point where you've made the connection, you made a good connection, and you're following up.
Now I do those by email, because it's convenient. I notice, like, after I talk to somebody, I know I can shoot them an email. Doesn't takes me a few seconds, but I know I'm getting a lot of bang for my buck just to remind them of, well, just to put me in their subliminal consciousness. You know what I mean? By giving them a nice
Imagine
kind of a thank you email.
imagine what you will do when you put that into a handwritten thank you note
Oh
and
man,
send it.
that's huge.
Right now,
That's a home
imagine
run.
them sitting in their office.
Right.
They got mail. That was a thank you card.
Yeah.
It goes a long way.
Now, is that the same in a group setting? Because I think what you're describing is more of a one-on-one, but you say it's the same as a
No,
group.
group setting. Let's say of those 5 people, I collected 3 of their cards because
Okay.
I had a
So
connection
you had the
with 3 of those
conversation.
people. So just like I did before, on the back of their card, I wrote down the date, the function, and something I spoke to them about.
Right.
Then I start my follow-up process.
Gotcha. All right. So now it sounds to me like at this point, you're once they see how just how cordial you are, they've received something in the mail. They've had a nice exchange, but now they see that you're a little bit even further along than the average Joe down that they normally meet. They get your
They
card.
see how they see how professional I am.
Right. Right.
That's the difference. I'm talking with another dealer up northeast. He's the biggest
Mhm.
dealer, Toshiba dealer. And he goes, look, I just need something. When my salesperson goes in against another salesperson, and both things are pretty much the same, it's pretty much the same price. I need something to put them over the edge.
Mhm.
All of this will do it.
Okay. Now, Um, okay, so now they're at the point where maybe they want to know, hey, is this guy that I kind of would like to work with anyway? Does he have something to offer? Does he have something that I want since I kind of wouldn't mind doing business with him anyway? Is that the kind of thing we're at now?
Absolutely. But in that email or that handwritten thank you note, you say, look, I'd like to schedule a cup of coffee with you.
Okay.
Again, I haven't said anything about business. I'd
Right.
like to schedule a cup of coffee with you. I'm available Tuesday or Wednesday. Which one is better for you?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll
Okay.
email me back or something. Now, I would say 50 or 60% of the time, you're going to get some response,
Mm-hmm.
positive, negative, or whatever. Okay.
Right.
But that still leaves that 40%. So that leaves you a 3-day lapse, time for them to get that thank you note, time for them to get through all the garbage that they have to get through during a day. And you send them another email. Hey, I'm just checking up with you. I invited you out for a cup of coffee. My treat. I just want to sit down and talk with you about XYZ.
So you're
Now
double
that,
checking to make sure that they're good for that day, that they're not going to cancel or forget.
well, they haven't set a date yet.
Oh,
So
you
I
haven't set
said,
the date. Now
no,
you're going
and
to
I'll,
set.
it's all no, 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 no. So that I'll get some sort of response. It's up to like 90% now. It's always that 10% of the time where they're just gonna. That's it. They don't want to talk to
Right.
you.
So just to know, in the card you send them, you say, "Hey, let's meet for coffee sometime." You don't get
Right.
personal.
I'd
Gotcha.
love to sit down for a cup of coffee with you. My
That's okay.
treat. Let me know when you're available.
Okay, gotcha.
You left it open. Okay. When you with that email, the next email, not the first email, not the handwritten card, but the next email. Hey, I'm just wondering about that cup of coffee. I'm free next Tuesday or Wednesday. Which one will work better for you?
Right. And now that's a good point because sometimes there just isn't a communication. Like the guy might have led on to you that he's more interested in buying a house than he really is or whatever. And that's a good time for him to bow out because he's overextended himself, right? Or whatever. He's
And
going to
it
waste your
gives
time anyway.
exactly, but it gives him, he still can with his head in the air saying, no, no, no. So it's really
Right.
not a waste of his time or yours. And
Right.
your time is very valuable. Okay.
Hmm.
So you have to pick and choose these things. That's why I say just to not hand out your business card. Your first thing is to hand out your business card to everybody. Everybody should have my business
Right.
card. Okay. No, wrong, wrong. Because how many of those people are going to A, keep your card, or B, keep your card for a week and go through the card and say, I don't remember what this guy did, and throw it out?
I've never seen it work, and I've seen so many people do it, and I don't understand
Absolutely.
why they keep doing it. And I'm like, I already know this doesn't work, but this guy handing out the cards doesn't know.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yep. Very interesting.
So now, just out of curiosity, Let me try, because now we're at the point where you would have to deliver. I mean, you meet the guy in person, you're going to have to deliver. You're going to have to show him that you've got some properties that are going to appeal to him or whatever. Now is the time,
Absolutely.
right? So let's
Now
say
you
in
get to
music,
strut your stuff.
right now, I'm just curious, what kind of music do you like? Have you listened to? Do you have any musical background at all? Where are you at in music?
I I've got zero musical talent. I mean, not even
Well,
one.
talent. That talent is
It
different.
right, right. But I like country western.
Okay.
That's more along my lines.
Okay.
And I'm more of an 80s rock. You
Wow. Have you ever heard of Elvis
and then
Costello?
and then the really oldies like from the 50s and 60s.
Okay. All right.
You know,
Because I
I'm
mean,
talking I'm talking about from the Cars,
yeah, I
you
love
know,
the Cars.
go back down to Buddy Holly in the 50s.
Absolutely.
So it's a real big mix. You're to see my playlist on my phone. You would think that, like, who the heck, has this phone, because I jump from genre to everything else all in the same playlist.
I
I
played
just
something. I played something on this podcast from Martha and the Rondells a couple days ago.
oh yeah, see, I like that. I like that.
Okay. Now I was just wondering, Elvis Costello. Does that ring a bell with you at all?
Well, Elvis Costello does ring a bell. I wasn't a big fan of his,
Okay.
but it definitely rings a bell.
Well, I mean, I was a piano bar entertainer, so I can play anything. I could play Great Balls of Fire. I could play a whole litany of 1950s hits for you, or 1960 hits. I actually used to play with the band called the Platters. Do you remember them from the 1950s and 60s?
Sure,
I
I
was their
absolutely do.
I was their pianist. I used to tour with them in the Caribbean and
Wow,
all kinds of places like that. And so I played all their hits, Only You and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Um,
absolutely.
so I don't know what to do, because, I don't know if I should, like, appeal right to where you are. Cause the thing is, I'm not trying to sell you a product, but I am trying to play along with this, this whole thing here. What I might do, and like I said, what I might do is I might start out with something that is in the jazz and creative idiom, and then end up in something that is a little more in your wheelhouse, and then we would just go from there. I don't know, we would figure out what to do from that point forward or whatever. Does that make any sense? Or
It
if you
makes
want, I could just play. I mean, would it be better for me to just play a song from Martha and the Rondells right now, or what do you think?
Yeah, for you, for me, absolutely. If I don't have to do anything, absolutely.
Calling out around the world, are you ready for a brand new beat? Summer's here, the time is right for dancing in the street, dancing in Chicago, down in New Orleans, in New York City. All we need is music, sweet music. There'll be music everywhere. There'll be singing, swaying, record playing, dancing in the street. It doesn't matter what you wear, just as long as you are there. Come on, every guy, grab a girl. Everywhere around the world, we're dancing, dancing in the street. We're dancing, dancing in the street. know what you wear, just as long as you are there. So come on, every guy, grab a girl, everywhere around the world we're dancing, dancing in the street. Yeah, we've been dancing, dancing in the street, dancing in the street, dancing in the street. We've been dancing, dancing in the street.
Very nice. Very good. Very good. You brought me right back.
Okay, so all right, so now what happens? So now I play something on in your wheelhouse. That would be the next step, right? For the person in business. Do something with
Absolutely.
you in your arena, so to speak, right?
Well, here's the thing. When you finally sit down with them
Mhm.
and you're starting to talk business. Now, I haven't started talking about my business yet.
Mhm.
Okay. Your first thing you should ask them, say, you know something? I believe in your product so much. How can I be the best referral source for you? How can I be the best salesperson for you?
Mm.
And it's like, what do you mean? You haven't tried to sell me anything yet. Say, well, no, that's not my goal. Because I'm building relationships. I'm not building clients. Okay. What can I do? What can I do to sell your product? And usually by then, if I played my cards right, if I've done everything correct so far, it just goes on. You know, I do this, you do that. Let's get together. Let's make this happen. And then it's built from that point on. And then you have to keep in touch with them. You need a good CRM. You have to follow up with emails, newsletters, and things like that. It's a lot. If you want to be successful, it's a lot of work.
Mhm. Right. Okay. Gotcha. Now, you know, what we do with jazz, with jazz is what we're trying to do is help the person get from where they are now to where they need to be. And that includes an outstanding cause to help them get, more sponsors and more publicity and awareness and raise funds and all those kinds of things to become more prestigious. And we're using the arts and culture to do that, with the listener, again, we're trying to get them from a point of reference, let's say Martha and de Vandel's, to maybe some sort of an appreciation of jazz, So maybe if they see the same guy that just did something that I like, that appealed to me, maybe I could follow him a little forward, from that point, and like stretch his mind a little bit. How would you suggest somebody goes from, how would you suggest like a musician now who's played you a song right where in your upbringing could take you now to a place or at least attempt to take you somewhere on it where you may never have been autistically, in terms of hearing jazz.
Well, if you do your job correctly and you got the information from him without
Mm-hmm.
even him realizing, you can you fine, you got the jazz, you got that he really enjoyed the jazz, but then you may have found out that he likes something else, something a little it could be pop for all you know
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to really think about what type of situation you can put him in or help him get to in that genre. Okay,
Right.
so you have that jazz already locked up. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so now open up the pop, or something close to it, or it depends on where your conversation went when you were building the rapport, because you should have gotten all that information, and then you can expand on it. And I'm not 100% with the music industry,
Mm-hmm.
but that's how I would do it. I would try to lead him into another one of his likes, one of his directions that he would like to go in, and try to help him
Okay.
along that way.
All right. So I'm going to throw some other acts out there, and you tell me if you're familiar with them, okay? Because you said 80s, you said 90s, right? You said 70s, 50, you were 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? That's where you're
Right.
coming from, right? Okay, so I'm going to
Yes.
throw these two people out. Sting from the Police.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Absolutely.
Okay. Frank Sinatra. Little too old, right? What?
Oh, of course.
No.
Of course.
Okay. Chaka Khan.
I did, but I didn't listen to him very much.
Okay. Harry Nielsen.
Didn't listen to him very much.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Of course.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you out of those names to pick one. I'm giving you Sting. It looked like you were really like Sting.
Sting, the Police.
Sting and the
Sting,
Police.
Police. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right. And I also said Simon and Garfunkel. You seem to like them a lot.
Yeah,
But
Sting,
I
the
think
Police.
Sting. I
Yep.
think Sting gets it done, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So now that I've got you somewhere, because I went to where you were and I gave you some Martha and the Vandells, right? I went into your house now with that. I'm going to give you some Sting, okay? But now I'm going to stretch it a little bit. Now I'm going to bring some jazz into it that you've never heard, and see if I can keep your attentions, if I can somehow hold it together. Okay.
Okay.
So let's
Sure.
try it. This is kind of me trying to do what you're teaching people. And you can tell me if I'm doing it or not, or you can correct me. You know what I mean? See what you do.
Okay.
Like I said, I got you somewhere, right? Now I'm trying
Yep.
to get you a little. Let me see if I can get you a little further. Okay, let's see what happens. You'll remember me when the west wind moves on the fields of barley. You'll forget the sun in his jealous sky as we walk in fields of gold. So she took her love for to gaze a while upon the fields of barley. In his arms she fell as her hair came down among the fields of gold. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love on the fields of barley? We'll forget the sun in his jealous sky as we lie in fields of gold. See the west wind move like a lover's soul on the fields of barley. Feel her body rise when you kiss her mouth upon the fields of gold. Never made promises lightly. There have been some that I've broken, but I swear in the days still left we'll walk in fields of gold. We'll walk in fields of gold.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it. You started out with something I'm very familiar with, and then you
Okay.
wound up something where I was unfamiliar.
Right.
But I didn't stop listening
Right.
because I expected the second half to be as good as the first half. So I kept on listening, and you didn't you didn't sway my beliefs at all. So, I enjoyed what I knew, and I enjoyed what I didn't know because I was like expecting like, okay, what's the next note? What's the next thing that he's going to do? And it all went very well. It went very well.
Great. So, folks, I mean, we're doing this. This is it's wild to me because we're doing it live right in front of the people. I'm basically trying to do exactly what this man is trying to teach you to do and seeing if I can pull it off or not, and that's what and that's what I love about the our listeners will get to see, me trying to put your teachings into action live right there in front of their very eyes.
And this, I've got to tell you, this was a leap from where, because I'm talking about a business setting, and the music that plays is in way in the background, and you really don't listen to it because you're more or less talking, but you brought the music up front.
Right.
Okay. And that's what the main difference was. That's what I enjoyed anyway.
Well, I mean, that's what we're trying to do with Jazz for Peace is we're trying to see what people don't realize in America. First of all, us Americans think we know everything because, we've dominated in business and all that stuff and millions of dollars, blah, 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 blah. But here's what we don't realize. Music is a massive, it's huge, and it covers every emotion, and it covers spirituality and all kinds of stuff. And what we've done, because we're in our ism, is we've taken music and said, okay, how can we take these sounds and turn them into money? So capitalism, how do we pure entertainment, give people pure entertainment? Well, you have to take out a lot of stuff in order to give people pure entertainment. To sell a product, you have to narrow it down. And what we're trying to do, because we see all of the problems that people are having in society now, and we see that in the past, people use music to heal that stuff. They used music as medicine, as spiritual, and, as all kinds of cultural, things that, indigenous peoples going back for centuries. I mean, Johann Sebastian Bach, Mozart wasn't trying to sell you a beer. You know what I mean? So what Jazz for Peace is trying to do is expand that. But in order to do that, we first have to get you right where you are and win you over on your turf, which I was attempting to do with the Martha and the Vandals. And then to continue that, I gave you something else in your wheelhouse because you excite, I was given the names when I heard you jump at the Sting and the Police. I knew, okay, if I give him Sting and the Police, I'm going to be right in his, I'm going to be right where he's been on a Friday night or whatever with his friends or whatever, And
Right.
but then now, as you heard, I expanded it to into areas that you've never heard that police do on that song.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, with whomever that you're talking to, communicating with, whether it's this country or some other country, they just have to close their eyes and just imagine themselves, and they can be anywhere. And what happens is if you and he are if you listening to the same music, you close your eyes, you are almost in the same place or completely different places, but at the same time. And it goes a lot. So that brings again, that's your rapport, and you're breaking down the barriers, and you're breaking down the barriers of that person that you're singing with or listening to the music. And after the barriers are broken down, you can then start to discuss. And if there's a big language barrier, you better have an interpreter. But you know, you will have you'll be on common ground.
Now, where are you located?
I am in Cumming, Georgia.
Cumming, Georgia. I remember reading that, Cumming, Georgia. So, my next move with you would be, hey, Michael, I hope someday, what Jazz for Peace wants to do, ultimately, we want to take the entire world from 0 to 1. And when I say 0 to 1, I mean right now, if you look at funding and where it's going, you see that 100% funding for military and war. Okay. And there's zero funding for peace. And now you're wondering why we're not getting along and we're blowing each other up and we're having all of these issues and problems and crazy things that we can't seem to fix. So I want to take the whole world, and I mean all of them, every country, from 0 to 1. Okay, I want to take that doesn't mean you still can't be a dictator and a nutcase and an Adolf Hitler, because you're still gonna have 99%. You're still at 99. I just want to go 0 to 1, 1% peace. In order to do that, I may need to come out to Cummings at some point and help an outstanding cause in Cummings, Georgia. Help them raise funds, help them raise publicity and awareness, help them raise new and prestigious supporters, help them, get their donors rejuvenated, help them expand their donor base. That's what Jazz for Peace does. So at some point or other, I'm hoping that with podcast, whatever, outstanding cause might see your podcast and say, hey, let me contact Jazz for Peace at info@jazzforpeace.org, their email address, and may talk to them about how they might be able to help our outstanding cause. Because for me, helping them, that gets funding into the right place.
And, one organization that I always tout, that I always say that I am a part of, is Tunnel to Towers. Tunnel
What are
to
they called?
Towers. Tunnel to Towers.
Got it.
Tunnel, the number 2 towers. It
Oh,
started at 9/11, and
okay.
to give support to the, the families and everybody who lost during that time. But they are so good. They started to expand it, and they expanded it into military families that have lost. And I'm a vet. So, my
Wow.
heart immediately goes to Tunnel to Towers. And I forgot the percentage, but it's a extremely high percentage of them that give the money away. Just a very small percentage goes to running the business. So, and which is opposite of many other uh, of these organizations that, they give like 10% to the organization, to the people or whatever. And they keep 90%. You know,
Right.
Tunnel to Towers
Of
is the
course.
exact opposite.
Okay.
And so if anything, I hope Tunnel to Towers gets hold of you at that. What's the email address?
It's
Info.
info at jazzforpeace.org. JAZZFORPEACE. I'll put it in the thing. Now, folks, people who are watching this, we're just doing this on the fly. This is my chance, believe it or not, to speak not only to Michael, but to Tunnels for Towers right here on the screen at the same time, with the hope that maybe Michael will share his podcast with Tunnels for Towers. And basically, what I'd like Tunnels for Towers to know is that Jazz for Peace was invented on the morning of 9/11, when I got a phone call from a photographer on Wall Street that said, hey, something's going on in the World Trade Center. Could you go up on your roof and take a look? Because I lived within a quarter of a mile from the World Trade Center, and I lived on a 5-floor walk up, and I walked up one flight and I was on my roof, and I watched everything from a luxury box office seat less than a quarter of a mile away from World Trade Center. I wrote the poem
I,
Jazz for Peace. Everything has gone from there.
I was with my brother, and we are on our way down to the city, the Jacob Javits Center, and we
Okay.
had to turn around because it was all happening.
So you were also in New York on that day.
Absolutely. I was right there. I didn't get closer than like 10 miles, but I
Sure.
was within 10 miles.
Yeah.
That's why
Well,
it's so
it,
close.
it's the poem. It started with a poem, and then it became lots more things. A benefit concert series. It became a concert at the United Nations where I brought together Palestinian, American, and Israeli, Palestinian, American jazz musicians. And like I said, musical instrument donation programs, educational programs, and benefit concerts for all kinds of outstanding causes. One of the very first ones that our benefit concert series was an organization called September something. We have it listed somewhere. They were an organization that were helping the families of 9/11 victims. So when I speak to right now, I'm speaking to Michael, but I'm also speaking to Towers to
Tunnels to towers.
Tunnels
Tunnels.
to Towers.
Now it makes a little more sense. The tunnels and the towers. So it's tunnels to
Got it.
towers.org.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, so with the hope that Michael will give this to them and they'll watch it and then they'll contact Jazz for Peace, because what part of our initiative to go from 0 to 1 is to get funds to outstanding causes. We believe that's part of funding peace. So there you have it, Michael. So folks, you saw this right in front of your eyes. What Michael here is doing, it works. It's something you need to learn, get these qualities. You see me trying them out. From his book, you'll be able to actually learn the things that he's talking about here. And this can really help anyone and everyone, because we all have to meet people. We all have to network, and we all have to make positive interactions with other people that can be possibly beneficial in terms of friendship, in terms of camaraderie, and in terms of business. So, Michael, we thank you so much for joining us here at the Jazz for Peace podcast.
And if you want to get hold of the book, go to michaelaforman.com. And that's my website, michaelaforman.com. On there, you'll see other podcasts that I was on, different talks, kind of like a one sheet of what I talk about. But on there also is you can order the book. You can
Okay,
order through
great.
Amazon. You can order through Amazon, but this is a direct line.
Okay, so folks, michaelaforman.com to order the book. Do it directly there. If you happen to forget or whatever, type in anything wrong, you can always go to Amazon and you can find this wonderful book. So again, folks, here we are. We're about to wrap up another wonderful, exciting episode. We thank Michael Forman for making it so wonderful and exciting. And we thank you for following us here at Jazz for Peace, where the final solution is love.
Listen, this was absolutely wonderful.